Good day and welcome to a new video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Heyo and welcome to another stream. Today I'm joined by Maxprodanov. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, yes, it's really hard to pronounce because it's a it's a Bulgarian name. It's not meant to to be pronounced in any other language. It's Maxprodanov.
Oh yeah, awesome.
My full name is Maxim, and I'm from Sofia, Bulgaria. I've been working in the game industry for nigh on 8 years. And my passion's been drawing and animation for a long time, also writing, and I'm actually doing art full time, so it's a mix between a job and pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's great to have you. Yeah. So today I'm doing a time lapse of page 1 of a little book that I'm making about a little hedgehog. So
Nice, that's a cute little hedgehog, one of my favorite animals.
oh, awesome. Yeah, he's yeah. At the moment, I've got quite a few painting involving hedgehogs, so yeah, it's interesting to do. Yeah, so you've
Of course,
already
who doesn't love Sonic and all the creepy versions of Sonic on the internet? So I hope this one won't be too creepy.
yeah, Sonic definitely was. I mean, I remember growing up with Sonic. I my sisters had a like the old Mega Drives or something. I can't remember. Sega Drives, I think they were. So I played on that when I was like
Yeah.
5 or 6, which was
Well, in
interesting.
Bulgaria, it was actually a dream for most people back then to have a Sega. Everyone had like a Nintendo, the old NES system, and
Mm,
Sega was really hard to get your hands on.
mm.
But so everyone was playing Mario, or well, all the cool kids or the everyone who had money had was playing Sonic, and it was like a status symbol back then.
Mm.
But now everyone plays it, so it's fine.
So you've so where were you from again? I forget. Hung
I was born in Bulgaria.
Bulgaria, yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Awesome. And
it's a small country, but
mm,
interestingly enough, it's there are a lot of game companies stationed here,
mm,
so it's like a surprisingly become a hub for the game industry, like Crytek,
mm,
Gameloft, and other companies have offices here. So it's getting to be an interesting place for games.
cool. So do you think um that gives you an advantage living in Bulgaria?
Well, definitely. I think the biggest advantage, of course, from the standpoint the company is that it's relatively cheaper compared to the rest of Europe. So a lot of companies gather here uh, to take advantage of the cheaper labor force. But slowly but surely, uh, wages are going up. So it's a nice place to be in.
Mm,
Also, surprisingly, you you have a lot of you have a big choice between like working for Ubisoft or Crytek or whatever. So it's oddly enough, it's a nice place to live in right now if you're
mm.
in the IT industry or an artist or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely an advantage. I'm from New Zealand, so we don't have a lot of studios around. And
Well, I beg to differ. I mean, New Zealand's famous for wet digital.
mm,
It's like uh, the holy grail for artists around here. So we
mm,
talk about like how awesome wet is, and we also have like a movie studio or a special effects studio called uh, Worldwide Effects. It's part of the Boyano Studios. So it's kind of like a mini Hollywood where
Mm.
Hollywood studios go to outsource their work, and a lot of decent, I shouldn't say awesome movies come out of here, but like Conan, The Expendables, and so on were made in Bulgaria.
Mm.
And but Weta Digital is like the golden standard of
Mm.
like awesome quality. So
Yeah,
uh, you
there's yeah,
you really have a chance to work there. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's like there's two places, well, kind of three that do have studios in New Zealand. But you know, all the other little towns, like from the Palmerston North, so there's not like any studios here in Palmy. So it'll be hard. Like I'd love to work for Weta, that'll be awesome one day. But it would mean moving from here to Wellington, um, which is, you know, it's not easy
Well,
moving. Um,
honestly, it shouldn't be a problem because I think with perseverance, anyone can become anything. Like
mm,
honestly, if you look at my gallery, uh, or just quickly switch to it, you'll see that there are some pretty embarrassing stuff that I keep stored in my gallery,
mm,
like really old stuff, really bad looking stuff, and I don't want to delete it, or I never want to lose track of it because, like, even if my work is like featured on DeviantArt now or whatever, it I should never like delete all my stuff because
mm,
uh,
yep,
it's a great reminder of how much I've grown and how much I still have to grow to become better.
exactly. Yeah, I'll show your work again at the end of the stream, and yeah, I'll show those as well, which would be cool. Yeah, I had a wee look too at your gallery, and it's quite cool that you've got, you know, you can see your progress definitely, um, which is really cool. I like to go through some artists' work and see what they did like maybe 2 3 years ago compared to what they're doing now, and be like, okay, um, you know, I talk in one of my
Yeah, there's
videos.
actually some great examples of that,
Mm,
like really world famous artists, like top notch, like Max Greke. I don't know if you've heard of him.
oh yeah,
He's a
okay.
Swedish artist. I think he was from Sweden. Like really great Swedish or Norwegian artists like Max Greke and uh, Even Mel Amundsen. Uh,
Mm,
they're awesome now, but if you look at their past work, especially Max Greke, he still keeps it on his DeviantArt actually.
mm,
You'll see that it's like very low quality at the beginning, like gradually going improving bit by bit the anatomy, value structure, composition, and so on, until he becomes like an, a god level artist. So I never take anything away from any artist if I look at work that's lacking something or not perfect or whatever. I always see the potential in someone to grow. Or if someone like Max Greke starts out, or Gregor Rutkowski, another one of my favorite artists, if they start out from the basic level and grow to god level, then anything is possible, honestly.
mm. Definitely, like, yeah. It just
It's
it
it's a real inspiration for me personally. I don't know if it is for you, but it's awesome to see how much people grow
mm,
during their career. Yeah.
yeah, it's great. I mean, I've even had a few artists on here on my streams that I've talked with for a stream. Their art was pretty good back, you know, back when a year ago when I talked to them, and now it's like,
Hmm.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you know, their improvement um after a year's time is
Yeah.
even like, oh my gosh, you know, um,
Yeah, it's really easy to dismiss someone if you see something that's obviously lacking something, but like that's the easy way to see something. looking at the work, like, oh, look at that shoulder is dislocated or whatever, the color structure is awful or something, and then you look at the same artist a few years in the future, and oh my God, what have I been saying all these years?
Mm.
Uh, it's actually, yeah, anything is possible.
Yeah.
It sounds cliche, but it's actually true, yeah, for anyone.
Uh,
As long as someone's stubborn enough to keep working, to never lose track of their
mm.
like goal, and as long as they're critical toward their work, analyzing it, analyzing their stuff, looking for mistakes and so on, and then the path is set, and actually work in the industry is like not guaranteed, of course, but it's very, very likely to happen.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think it's perseverance that gets you in. Just yeah. I mean, I get a lot of fails, obviously, because I do apply for a lot of studios, and they get back to me and they're like, most of them are like, probably because I'm applying as someone that wants to do it freelance. So some of these studios probably prefer, someone to actually be in their studios. And I watched a stream. I can't remember when it was. It might have been a few years back. How if you want to be a
Well,
sorry, say what you were gonna say.
we sorry. I talked over you, but we actually get a lot of interns at our company, which is Imperial Online.
Yeah.
It's now part of the Stillfront group. So we get a lot of interns,
Hmm.
and it's a really, really nice way to get acclimatized with the industry and to learn a lot of stuff very quickly, to be
So did you cut off? Oh, you cut off for a second. Um. Yeah. So yeah. Hey ho, sorry about that. We disconnected there. And usually I do these live on Twitch. But at the moment we're having to pre-record it. So you probably if you're a Twitch viewer, you might have seen the first like 12 minutes or something, and then you'll see this all on YouTube. Or if you're just a YouTube watcher, that's great. Awesome, I'd love to have you. If you have any questions or anything, just leave them down in the comment section on YouTube. Yeah, so you were talking a bit about like your intern.
Hello, Dan. Yeah, sorry for the disconnection. I was talking about my company, Imperial Online, and that we have a lot of interns coming in. So it's actually the best kind of experience to be in a company, to work a couple of weeks there and see like get direct experience from the other artists, and nobody will be judgmental, nobody will say anything mean or it's all a great experience because it's the fastest and least hard or the easiest way to improve, like see your mistakes and improve very fast. So we get interns that come in and they're at a certain level, and at the end of the internship they're like two levels higher.
How long are these like internships usually?
They're usually about 2 weeks.
Geez, 2 weeks.
It's actually really great experience. It would be great if they're longer, but if you want to get a lot of interns, 2 weeks is actually it's usually the best duration. It's enough, I think.
Hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah, so mm, the the mistakes that young artists often make are usually to do with like form or value, and once these problems are out of the way, the rest of it is really easy to overcome.
Hmm. Definitely. So basically, the basics. Um, that yeah, I feel like a lot of people do take for granted the basics.
Yeah, it's really easy to skip the basics and head right on over to the interesting stuff like detail or like fancy shading. But if you don't have the form, if you don't have the basis of the figure, then no matter how great the shading is, you can't really get it to look good.
Mm.
So if you have the 3D shapes rotated in a convincing way, if you have like values that are convincing, then even if the details are crappy, uh, you can you can kind of tell that the end result will be great. Like, you can't mess it up.
Mm. Exactly. That's like one of my tutors that I've had. Um, they said basically, you can't make a shitty drawing good by slapping some color on it. Um, which that's a great topic to
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
A great thing to say, really.
A great example of that is Max Greke. I'll mention him again because it's one of the artists that has the most convincing 3D shapes in his work. His pictures look fantastic, precisely because the viewer is completely convinced that the 3D is spot on. There's no um, like weird rotation, or the jaw is like in an awkward angle or something. Um, with Max Reiki, you can perfectly tell that every cube is a cube. Like I don't know how to say it, but you can always tell that the 3D is spot on.
Mm.
And if the 3D shapes inside your model are spot on, you can't make any awful mistakes after that. So the annoying exercises about drawing cubes or drawing so-called Loomis heads, like the sphere with the jaw attached to it and the markers where the eyes are supposed to be, it's annoying. It's it's tedious to practice, but once you get it, once you get that, once you nail it, then it's all easy after that.
Mm. So I see on your DeviantArt you've done quite a bit of different work, like 3D and 2D and animation, and I was wondering what is your favorite field? Your favorite thing?
Yeah, I actually started out with 3D. It was my passion to dabble around with 3ds Max a long time ago, like 1999 or something,
Mm.
about 2000.
Jeez, yeah.
We were making 3D games with my brother and a couple of friends from around the world in an old predecessor to Unity. It was called 3D RAD, RAD. It was
Yeah.
a really basic program for creating 3D games, but we were really into it because it was the only game in town. And we made a couple of 3D games with the community, and I started modeling, and it was really interesting. But afterwards, I realized that my main passion was drawing and painting. I uh, really focused on that, and my other passion was animation. So in my university, I my master's work was an animation movie. It was called The Robot Uprising. You can probably find it on YouTube somewhere. It has a lot of mistakes, but I really don't regret making it. It's well, you can see it and judge for yourself.
Mm.
And my main passion right now is drawing and painting. I also do animation for my company, and my hobby is writing. I actually
Cool.
have one novel already done, and I'm currently writing a second novel.
Awesome.
And you can read it for free on the website. There's a link on the DeviantArt if your viewers are interested.
Mm.
So yeah, I can safely say that writing is my main passion, and painting is about an equally interesting passion. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Um. Yeah. What inspires you to create?
Well, I don't really ask myself what inspires me to create, because it's it occurs on its own. I mean, creating something, painting something, you get a reward by looking at it, just by watching other people's approval of it, and you don't you stop asking yourself, why do I create? Because it's like the joy
Mm.
of any other activity, like the joy of sport or the joy of eating a nice meal. You
Mm.
just get an urge to do it. Like I don't want it to sound pretentious, but it's actually what I feel like every morning when I start to write my novel. It's actually a cyberpunk story,
Mm.
and every morning I just wake up thinking about it, and it's really interesting. I I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't go a day without wanting to draw, or even just, if I can't draw thinking about it, it's, you know, I re I can't go a day without it. It's just something that,
Yeah,
you know.
that's actually the best guarantee that you'll succeed. That you never give up on your dream. I at one point I had almost given up on the idea of working in the game industry or whatever, or doing animation or painting. But with perseverance, you can really do it. You can 100% you can do it. Even if you're working something else, I was working like in completely different areas. I
Mm.
was working in like the Central Election Commission
Mm.
of Bulgaria. Something absolutely nothing to do with art. I was later I was working at a company doing ad banners or something,
Mm.
or advertisements. It had nothing to do with painting. But if you keep pushing, if you don't forget what you're really uh, meant to do, then you'll do it. Sooner or later, you will be there.
Mm. Yeah.
Of course, providing that you're critical enough towards your work, and constantly look for faults and improve them, and each day you'll get better and better. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me, no work is perfect. So,
Yeah, of
I
course.
yeah, I always know that I have faults in my work, and I'm like, okay, and you know, like I was gonna say before about this book that I'm drawing up. Is basically I'm pretty much saying it's finished, But maybe when I'm actually finished like all the pages and put the actual book together, I might then go over it and actually do a little tweak to them, or just like polish it off, kind of a thing. Um,
Where well, there's always that urge to polish something to infinity, but
mm,
some of the best artists out there, if you look at their work, a lot of it is not finished.
mm,
Like say the work of Ruangia or something. There's always spots on there that can be improved further,
mm,
or uh, like any artist, pick one. You can find spots on it where there can always be more detail, but
mm,
you don't want that. You want the work to be spontaneous. You want the work to look nice. That's the basic. That's the
mm,
basic concept. You want it to be cool, no matter what. And sometimes, or often enough, if you look at some professional work, if you add more detail to the background, or if you add more detail everywhere, it will look worse actually.
mm,
So um, you have to let things rest
mm.
and move on to the next thing. It's the best thing, the best way to progress.
Yeah, it's definitely. I talked about this in one of my other streams. Is like working on working on one piece for the rest of your life, or moving on and progressing, creating more and more and more, and just improving by doing, um, which is a great thing. I don't, you
Uh,
know.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I remember one YouTube video,
Mm,
some Armenian artist, I think.
oh yeah.
The YouTube video was titled like "This painting took 4 years to make" or something like that. It was a
Yeah.
nice picture of a tree,
Mm,
traditional pencil or something, or tablet, or I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a nice enough looking tree. All right, but the comments under the video were, why did this take 4 years to make? What's up with that? So this was the focus of the comments.
mm,
It was ridiculous
yeah.
because it was a nice picture, it was great, but it's not worth the effort.
Mm,
Sorry for the artist, but it was too much.
yeah.
And there are actually pictures that are drawn in like 10 minutes
Mm,
on Instagram that are much more spontaneous and much better looking and have much better reception than this.
mm.
So it's very important to be spontaneous, to add energy into your painting, not get too frustrated about some minor detail being not perfect.
Yeah, it's definitely for me in this kind of industry these days. I feel like you got to tell a story, or it has to have some sort of purpose for creating it. Um, Other than here's me drawing a tree that looks realistic. Um, I mean, it's nice to be able to render a tree like really realistically, but that who's gonna be like, oh, cool, a tree. I could have just taken a photo of that. Yay, you
Yeah,
know?
that's actually my problem with hyperrealism.
Mm,
Hyperrealistic drawings, you must have seen them anywhere, like on Facebook or
mm,
YouTube. Hyperrealistic quarter or penny, or hyperrealistic, I don't know, apple.
mm,
So what? Okay, you've drawn something like perfectly, like a photocopy of some object. Okay, that's great, but where's the story? Where's the interesting part of it? Uh, if you look at the work of like this Norwegian artist called Even Mel Amundsen, it's
oh
kind
yeah,
of hard
yeah.
to pronounce, but he he adds a story to every painting.
Mm,
That's actually what inspired me to add short stories to my own paintings. Uh, he he paints something. It looks fantastic. It has storytelling behind it, and then he writes this. really inspiring paragraph that further deepens the story and makes it like an illustration from a fantasy novel or something. So I wanted exactly that for my own paintings, and I thought I could do it, and it actually made my work more popular, I guess. It added to the impact, even if the painting is not like god quality or something. It made it more popular, I guess.
Hmm.
So it's all the story is the most important thing. Of course, it's important to have technique, to not to like annoy the viewer with poor technique, but it, like getting back to the basic. The more important thing is for your work to be cool overall. Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, you're not just taking photos. You're creating something that no one else can create. Um,
Yep.
and
Yep.
not just. Sometimes I see some art that's like, oh my gosh, like, who would like this? Um, Obviously someone that was, the same sort of person as that artist that did it. Um, but yeah, some of it's a bit odd and confusing. But that's
Yeah.
more in, the kind of really upper class kind of art world kind of a thing. Where like this
Well,
one
actually,
line.
some of the best artists. Sorry to interrupt again. Some of the
Yeah.
best artists that I've seen, like Gregor Rutkowski, a Polish painter who has probably the best digital imitation of traditional techniques.
Hmm.
Like hands down, for me,
Hmm.
he's the best. Gregor Rutkowski or Greg Rutkowski. He's also on DeviantArt. He made a great interview with like Art Cafe or something with
Oh
Maciej
yeah.
Kuciera, who's in the industry, and he said something really interesting about the academic world.
Hmm.
He said that it's really puzzling to him why people uh, like get overly analytical and overly academic about art analysis, and they get very dogmatic in the art world. They say this is good and this is bad, and he was overall very critical of the art world, of the traditional academic art world. And this is coming from like the artists that I probably respect most out of everyone on ArtStation or DeviantArt. So there are two worlds. One is the academic or the commercial painter world that sells like a crappy painting for $1 million,
Hmm.
and there's the really awesome world of highly skilled artists that work either for the game industry or for themselves. There's another great artist, Peter Moorbacher, an American who has the Angelarium series or Angelarium series. He draws angels. He finances his work through Patreon, and he paints the most awesome creatures.
Hmm.
They're inspiring. They're his own work, but they are not recognized by the art world, by the traditional art world. So there's a complete disconnect between these two worlds. One doesn't know about each other or doesn't care about the other, right?
Hmm.
So you need to decide which area you need to focus on. For me, this was hands down the game industry, because you have more freedom. You don't have to pander to like art critics or whatever, and you get to make stuff that you like, uh, that you can be interested by and happy from.
Definitely, that's.
Yeah.
I agree. There's two sides to it. And yeah, I'm definitely the same as you. The kind of per se the gaming industry, or more for me. I'm actually kind of more interested in like children's books. Um, I would like to create creatures and maybe more towards maybe children's games or like similar maybe to Spyro the Dragon. I know that's just been remade at the moment. Um, but that kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah, I remember that.
um, that kind of style of, gaming, rather than the whole, shoot 'em ups and um, more, 18 R18 or R13 or whatever.
That's a fantastic direction to take. I think that's very admirable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the yeah. So yeah. Anywho, should get to another question that I've got. How long do you spend on a piece usually?
Sorry?
How long do you spend on like one painting?
Well, I usually spend a couple of days. Uh, I tend to limit myself to a week,
Mm.
like a work week,
Yeah.
because it's like I said, it's not healthy to spend too much effort or attention to one piece. So about 4 or 5 days for a battle scene or something really grandiose. But for like a painting of a character or something else, about 1 or 2 work days.
Mhm.
I'm not one of the fastest painters in my office. There are people who paint faster than me. Like everyone has their weaknesses or strengths,
Mm.
and I'm actually faster at other stuff, but yeah, I'm faster at animation. I'm faster at like generally my Photoshop technique is very fast. I have everything set to a hotkey. I use an additional program, auto hotkey, to further
Mm.
speed up my work. But in terms of art itself, I'm in the middle. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the slowest. Yeah.
Mm.
I look at some Chinese artists like Evan Lee, uh, who are exceptionally fast. They make no mistakes. Each stroke is perfectly planned, I feel.
Mm.
And I can only envy that. I can envy people like Elisa Ivanova she's on Instagram, who draws everything like without a sketch, without any pre-planning, and she nails it every time. But I can only aspire to that. Yeah.
Mm. Well, it would take a lot of well, yeah, determination, but also, what was I gonna say? Another word for it.
It's actually like bordering on genius, but there is
Mm.
no such thing as a genius or talent in my view. There's just the the intention to spend a crazy amount of time
Mm.
on a single task. There are
Exactly.
no geniuses. There are no like wonder kids or whatever. Even Mozart was brilliant because he was spending a crazy amount of
Mm.
time on music every day since childhood, and it's actually very inspiring for me because I didn't used to be a good artist at first. Of course, no one is, and I always know that I can improve by putting in a little bit more effort, until I get where I want.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're very, very disciplined to get there. Putting every hour into it. Um, I don't think most of these artists would be gaming. They'll be probably, doing art most of the time. Um, yeah, very.
They say that self-discipline is the best predictor of any sort of success Like no matter if you work in art or in business or banking or whatever, if you have self-discipline, is the best predictor of success. So self-discipline means not just forcing yourself to work each day, but criticizing your own work, finding faults, and looking for these faults and eliminating them as fast as possible. You don't want to make the same mistake 10 years later or 20 years later. You don't want to be one of those guys who is 80 years old, like works at some newspaper or something, makes illustrations, and all of the illustrations are awful. Like he hasn't moved a single inch in 40 or 50 years. You don't want to be that guy. You want to be like Frank Frazetta. For me, one of the most important artists, or one of the most inspiring artists. At 80 years old or something, he still painted. Like he had a stroke. One of his arms was paralyzed. His right arm, I think. He learned to draw with the left arm, to paint with the left arm, the left hand, and he was still painting awesome things with a stroke at 80 years old. Just an inspiring story. And I mean awesome things that can be used in today's games, like awesome fantasy paintings. So Frank Frazetta is an absolute inspiration for me too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to plateau. Obviously, you've just got to keep moving and creating. And I mean, watch out for artists as well. Look at their work. Like Maxprodanov here, I've got his work up on. Your work here, and you can just see, where you have started. Doing some 3D stuff to some drawings and animation, and just slowly
there's a lot more stuff to what I've done, but I've kept my old stuff out there, and you can probably see the the dramatic change in quality as you go down. But I've kept my stuff in there. And I hope the newer stuff is looking better.
Yeah, I mean your stuff's like, oh my gosh, it looks really amazing. It's awesome.
But I never really settle with something that I've done. I mean I like it, but I can always find faults. I can always spend another month improving it until it's probably better. But I never want to congratulate myself or pat myself on the back. I always want. I don't look at myself. I look at artists who are better than me, and I try to jump over them.
Awesome. Yeah, which is I feel it's a good way. I mean, there's I feel there's I saw on one stream they're talking about this, how there's like two different kind of mindsets. There's either they they really dislike their art, but they keep improving. But if you have, or someone that really likes their art, and if you be like, I love it, I love it, I love it, you might feel like that you're not improving because you're always just drawing what you were saying before.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen too many artists who are who keep beating themselves up, or like getting depressed over how bad their art is. Their art isn't actually bad, but they constantly get depressed. And there's the other polar opposite about artists who are like good, but they congratulate themselves too much, so they get stuck in that on that level, and they never improve. There are cases like that, from like DeviantArt to the highest highest paid positions in the game industry. Like I don't want to like name drop or like criticize a particular artist, but there are some concept artists who like are overly critical of everyone else, and they are absolutely certain their work is the best, and actually there are always better artists than them. So you need to be humble. You don't need to be complacent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you just keep an open mind, it's great. Um, you, there's always room for improvement. Yeah. Thanks for coming in. It's been amazing.
Thanks, Dan. It's been a pleasure for me, and I hope it was a great an experience for your viewers. I that sounded awful. I'm sorry. I want to just end with a message to your viewers to be like always critical of your work, but never settle. Never settle with the level that you're at, but also don't get to the other extreme. Don't get too critical. Don't give up. That's absolutely the most important thing. Never, 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 ever give up. And you will get to your goal no matter what. And I hope you do too, Daniel.
Awesome.
So,
Thank
bye
you.
from Bulgaria.
Yep. Have a good one. Keep drawing and keep creating things. Hope you enjoyed this stream. Have a good one. Goodbye.